The worst is yet to come for food inflation in Asia. Food inflation in euro areas expected to stay high. Taiwan is one of 8 anti-inflation big economies. Indomie noodles is inflation benchmark in Indonesia. Floods forced tens of thousands to evacuate in China. Time to recognize Taiwan, the end to One China policy. China tests to beam solar power from space. Afghanistan 6.1 earthquake kills 1,000 people.
Hello, I'm Johnny. Thank you for joining us on FUNDAY News. It's June 23rd, Thursday, and here are your top stories. Nomura Holdings reported on June 20th that food prices in Asia outside Japan rose by 5.9% in May over the same period last year, and the rate of increase in December last year was 2.7%. Nomura estimates that the growth rate will accelerate again in the second half of this year because it will take about 6 months before the change in global food costs hits Asia. China's pandemic lockdowns, Thailand's swine fever outbreak, and India's heat wave will all add to woes.
In response to a higher cost of living, Jakarta and Manila have already had to raise minimum wage levels. But Nomura said inflation is already spreading beyond cereals and edible oils to other categories like meat and other processed food. Rice may be next if nation seeks alternatives to pricey wheat pushing demand surges. Singapore is expected to see food inflation doubled to 8.2% in the second half from 4.1% now. India will likely see the highest print at 9.1% due to rising feedstock costs.
According to ECB study, the current food inflation can be expected to stay high in the coming months, despite some counterbalancing factors, because these counterbalancing measures are unlikely to limit food price increases very much in the short term, because some necessities cannot be replaced in a short time. They may even become the main driver of future food price inflation. For example, owing to the reduced supply and high price of fertilizer, some pipeline pressures are expected to persist in 2023.
The study reviewed some of the supplies affected by the war could be substituted by supplies from the rest of the world, but at high prices. There is also the possibility of increasing crop production in rural areas by bringing ecological focus areas into cultivation and reprioritizing the maize produced, which would help moderate the impact of war on grain markets, at least in terms of quantity. But the demand on fertilizer would unavoidably be increased.
The Economist found among the 42 big economies in a study of global inflation, while policymakers point out that rising prices are a global phenomenon, Taiwan and 7 other big economies still have inflation below 4%. Since 6 of those 8 are in East or Southeast Asia, the Economist believes that the spread of 2 diseases accounts for the Eastern exceptionalism. One is the outbreak of African swine fever from 2018 to 2021, and the other anti-inflationary disease in the region is COVID-19.
The Economist said the outbreak of African swine fever in China, where 200 million pigs were killed, dramatically increased the price of pork. However, the price of pork fell by more than 21% in the year to May, helped offset inflationary pressure elsewhere in the economy. And in dealing with the pandemic, Taiwan remains cautious even now. While its success in keeping COVID at bay in the past has left its population with less of West fatalism about the disease, its cautious measure helped limit consumer spending. Its inflation below 4% does not seem so miraculous.
Nikkei reported as the shock waves from the Ukraine war ripple across the globe, people in Indonesia are particularly concerned about paying more to put food on the table, especially their favorite instant noodles. With wheat prices climbing, many consumers and President Joko Widodo's government alike are closely monitoring Indomie prices because a possible price hike would force a change in consumer behavior in the national economy. The maker of Indomie promised to take the economy into consideration.
Nikkei reported, according to the World Instant Noodles Association, Indonesian demand for instant noodles reaches 13.27 billion servings in 2021. Most noodles consumed are thought to be instant varieties from Indo food, including Indomie packets. and their prices are directly linked to people's livelihoods. As wheat prices are on the rise, up 13% on the year, an Indo-food official said the company will take raw materials and ingredients prices, the economy, and consumer buying power into consideration.
AP reported major flooding caused by heavy rain has collapsed roads, swept away houses, cars, and crops, and has forced the evacuation of tens of thousands of people in southern China. Parts of the manufacturing hub of Guangdong suspended classes, office work, and public transport amid rising waters and the threat of landslides. In the neighboring province of Jiangxi, almost 500,000 people have seen damage to their homes and their lives uprooted. Roughly the same number have been affected in Guangdong, largely in the cities of Shaoguan, Heyuan, and Meizhou.
AP reported Chinese authorities on Sunday, June 19th, issued the year's first red alert, the most severe warning for possible mountain torrents. In Zhejiang province, north of Guangdong, rescue crews in inflatable boats brought out residents trapped in their homes, including inundated villages. Further north, storm warnings were issued for much of the eastern provinces, including capital Beijing, while reservoirs in the central province of Henan were at flood level and were releasing torrents of water downstream.
Media reported Canada's Conservative leadership candidate Scott Aitchison promises that, as Prime Minister, he would put an end to Canada's One China policy and recognize Taiwan as a sovereign state. He told National Post on June 21st, this is not just about standing up to a bully nation, but it's also standing up for Chinese Canadians. He noted Taiwan is ready for this. All we have to do is look at Hong Kong or Ukraine to see what some countries are willing to do when no one stands up to them. So it's time.
Coincidentally, a former Pentagon official, Joseph Bosco, on June 21st posted an opinion on the Hill argued, since Beijing passed its anti-secession law to counter the U.S.-Taiwan Relations Act to mandate the use of force to resolve Taiwan's status, even China now claims the entire Taiwan Straits as Chinese waters, never contemplated at the time of Shanghai Communique. Beijing has nullified it. It's time for Washington to declare its One China, One Taiwan policy and return U.S. forces to Taiwan.
Bloomberg reported on June 18th, Chinese researchers have successfully tested a full system model of technology that could one day wirelessly transmit solar power from outer space to Earth. The research team at Xidian University at Shanxi province said while individual components of solar from space technology have been tested before, the Chinese researchers are the first to successfully test a full system model. Xidian said researchers in US, Japan, India, Russia, the UK, and France are also exploring possibilities.
According to Bloomberg report, Xidian University sets up a model power station to capture sunlight and inverts it into microwave beams. It then transmits to a receiver station where it can be converted back to electricity. However, the model only sends the energy 55 meters with microwave for the time being. The researchers hope to send power from orbiting solar panels to Earth. Once the solar panels could be sent into orbit where they can evade Earth's shadow, it can beam the power back to Earth day and night.
The Afghanistan state-run Bakhtar news agency reported a magnitude 5.9 earthquake struck a rural, mountainous region of eastern Afghanistan early Wednesday, June 22nd. Killing 1,000 people and injuring 1,500 more in one of the deadliest quakes in decades. The epicenter of the tremor is near the Pakistani border, and the depth is at just 10 kilometers. Rescuers rushed to the area by helicopter Wednesday, but the response is likely to be complicated since many international aid agencies left Afghanistan after the Taliban takeover.
Media reported neighboring Pakistan's meteorological department said the quake's epicenter was in Afghanistan's Paktika province. Some 50 kilometers southwest of the city of Khost, buildings were also damaged in Khost province, and tremors were felt some 375 kilometers away in the Pakistani capital of Islamabad. A seismologist with U.S. Geological Survey Robert Sanders said, an earthquake of that magnitude in the mountainous area, there are rock slides and landslides that we won't know about.
And that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us on FUNDAY News. Let's make every day a fun day. I'm Johnny Wu, your host. I will see you next time.